a good teammate. One of the key messages that you don't need to necessarily be the greatest player to be a great teammate. Reflecting on your career at various levels, can I ask what you would consider to be some of the key ingredients of being a good team man?
Yeah, I think just simply working out what you can do to make the team a better team, what you can contribute. And clearly, 100 off 80 balls is a pretty, or 5 or 6 wickets is a pretty decent contribution, but we all know the reality is that they're few and far between, those sort of milestones, and it's not that easy to just say, yeah, that's what I'm going to contribute. On the days where you haven't contributed on the scorecard, it's vitally important to make sure that the mood and the attitude is right around the team. Your contribution to allowing others to be their best. So, supporting throwdowns, fielding, whatever it may be, just allowing them to prepare as well as they can. Mark Taylor was my very first Australian captain on an Ashes tour way back in 1997. I was the last member picked. I was, they took 17 players. I was the reserve wicketkeeper. So you take all your batsmen, you take your bowlers, you get your wicket-keeping. Oh, we need to spare one of those. So I knew that I wasn't going to be playing any of the big games. I was there as Ian Healy's understudy. But Mark Taylor sat me down in a one-on-one meeting at the start, and he gave me this list of things that he wanted me to do. At training, I had to do this, and during games, he required me to do this, and he thought that this would help. And, and off-field, he wanted me to be part of the social group to try and organise any little functions we might have. Anyway, I walked out. He'd given me responsibility. He'd given me, which with that comes accountability, because if you're not picking up your responsibilities, you're not accountable for what you're doing. I also felt as important as Glenn McGrath or Shane Warne on that tour, or Steve Waugh, just because I had a role to play. So that's where I think I learnt about teamwork and being part of a team. Michael Kaspovich is a name that a lot of youngsters probably may not know. A lot of our generation would know him, that he was 12th man a lot for Australia. He probably played 20 tests, but he was a bowler from Queensland. He was just the ultimate. Those tours of India, he was always doing up like newsletters, funny, hilarious.
You have to be a great player to be a team player. Now, in your dozen or so years, is there someone that you'd consider the best team player that just put others ahead of themselves to a degree that, you learnt a lot from?
Yep. There's a couple. One's Rob Quiney, who I played a lot with in Victoria. And it was always little things, but it was always the fact that whether it was club cricket or whatever it is, he was keeping an eye on all the scores. He'd send you a message if you did well. Whether it was after a game, he'd always make the effort. He was just a consistent human being. That's all it is. I don't think I think we can read too much into having to feel like you have to do things and go out really far outside your circle to be considered a team player. I think it's about being really consistent, being exactly who you are, being humble, being willing to help, all those sort of things. The other one that comes to mind is Pete Hanscom. He's one of my best mates, and he is as consistent as the sun is rising. And that's one of the bigger compliments I could give someone. So the fact that he doesn't change considering his performance, all those little things, but it's the fact that when you're out in the middle, having a calm head, having something clear and consistent, I think that's what I consider to be a team player and a good leader.
Yeah. Now, one question about Steve Smith. I think
So last few questions now. We talk a fair bit about what it takes to be a team player at Hale. Can you remember a player past or present that reminds you of a seriously good team player and what it takes to be a good team player?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think every you know, every team you've got players that will want to play for the team. Otherwise, they're not in it for too long. And you know, that's a big focus of the Australian cricket team at the moment is being able to you know, you want to perform for your team, no doubt. But the little things that you do off the field as well is, you know, you help your mates, you throw balls in the net, so it's not always up to the coaches. You know, we're on tour a lot of the time and you don't have your families with them. So not only are they teammates, they become really close family. You know, they're whoever you need to, you know, put your arm around or they put your arm around you. So I think for me, and I'll keep it WA focused, there's the Marsh brothers are unbelievable blokes, unbelievable cricketers, but they're two guys that would do anything for the country, for their team. They're very loyal to Western Australian cricket and to the Australian cricket team. So, you know, I could name you know, most of the guys that I play with as great team members, and you know, they become your extended family, like I mentioned. So what it means to be a great team bloke is just doing anything really for the team. You know, if it's trying to slog the last ball, you know, to get 6 more runs than you know, get a not out, then you know, that's, you know, that says a lot about the player as well. Yeah, it's a good question. I think you naturally know, I reckon. You know who the guys are that you want to play with, that you know, you get a laugh from as well, and that are willing to do anything out in the field.
Yeah, it's
But I was talking about Ricky Ponting and his unselfish attitude, particularly around training. So he would get to training early. He'd throw balls to, you know, the youngest or weakest member of the squad. He'd make sure everyone else had done their training to and set a standard around that. And then he'd do his training. And so he was ensuring that other people were absolutely prepared to the nth degree. And then he would do his work, which would last hours. And so, you know, over the years, you see a lot of people who turn up, they go to training to get better. They go to training to get themselves better and not necessarily the team better. And so he's someone that would always, every situation he played cricket in, he didn't care how many runs he got. It was about winning, and he would do everything in his power to make sure that the team won.
yeah.
All right. So while we've talked about a lot of the highlights of your career,
Sorry, I'll go back a step. Sorry to cut you off. I think it's worth noting that rather than naming, so the people that I think, because it's such an important thing, you play cricket and any team sport to win as a team, and individuals contribute to that. And sometimes it's just the little things that make a massive difference, like sharing the emotion. You know, if you're out as an opening batsman, being present and watching and contributing to the team, even though you're out, makes a massive difference to the culture of the team, rather than, you know, checking your phone and texting your mates and seeing what it's actually still being present in the game and making sure that you are finding ways of contributing, even though your personal contribution with the bat or the ball, you know, on any given day might not have worked out how you could have done it.
Yeah, that's great advice.
As a coach?
Yeah, look, one thing I say when I've been coaching Western Australia and now the Australian team, and I talked about a lot as a player as well, is we always try and develop not only great cricketers but great people. And great people have these values which are really important, and you know, about honesty and professionalism, coachability or learning, being able to learn. And the best players the best people I've been involved with are the ones who want to keep getting better all the time and not think they know already. And humility as well. It's a really important value for us. And the last one in the Australian team and throughout, where it was mateship. So we talk about all those values and how important that is to being a good person. And if you can have some of those really strong values, you become a teammate that everyone loves to have around. And if you're a good person, it takes some pressure off as well. You're not just being judged on how many runs or how many wickets you score, but also the value you bring to the team. And also in the Australian cricket team, we talk about we over me. So we over me, and it's a really constant philosophy. So what can you do for the team? What can you do for your teammates? Not just what you can do for yourself. And my gosh, I mean, I've been so fortunate that the guys I've played with, whether they were in the Warwick Footy Club or the Scarborough Cricket Club or the Aquinas, Darlow or Alco teams, with the West Australian teams, all the teams, they're just like my brothers. Honestly, they're still like my brothers, mate. And they're people that I still, I mean, I was on a text message, a WhatsApp message last night with about 5 or 6 of my old Aussie teammates, Haydos and Gilly and Punter, and we were talking rubbish. But the reason we still do is because they are literally like my brothers, and they're great teammates. They looked after me like I saw them more than I actually saw my proper brothers, because I spent so much time with them. So it's a really important part of sport